Game of Thrones has so many shocking plot twists that people still haven't recovered from to this day. The Red Wedding, Ned Stark's execution, Renly being gay. But what happens when you have been building a plot twist for 7.5 seasons that could literally change the outcome of not only the character, but multiple different storylines, and then drop the ball and intentionally do nothing? That's what happened to the masterfully crafted plot twist of Jon Snow being a Targaryen. This plot twist meant everything. The plot twist of Jon being a Targaryen had potential to make Jon and Daenerys' dynamic be one of the best of television. It also meant that Jon had a claim to the Iron Throne, and that it would change the Game of Thrones. It also meant that Jon Snow could claim a dragon and be the chosen one to destroy the threat of the White Walkers. And we'll get to all that in this video, but a huge part of the plot twist that the TV show really screwed up was that this plot twist was supposed to be more of like an internal struggle more than anything. For Jon's entire life, he's been an outcast, a bastard child. He's like the kid who gets picked last for dodgeball, and he's constantly being told that his identity doesn't really matter. And Jon Snow also thought that his mother was just some random woman that Ned Stark got way too horny looking at, and we didn't know it at the time, but so many scenes in the earlier seasons were preparing us for this plot twist.
And you are a Stark. You might not have my name, but you have my blood.
Is my mother alive? Does she know about me, where I am, where I'm going? Does she care?
The next time we see each other, we'll talk about your mother.
It's even more crazy when you realize that the same people who wrote that scene are the same people who destroyed the rewatchability of that scene because they destroyed the plot twist it was building for. And believe it or not, that scene is not from the books. That scene came out of the TV show writers David and Dan. And here is the craziest fact from this entire video that to this day still shocks me. The only reason why there ever was a Game of Thrones TV show was because these two writers had a meeting with the author George R.R. Martin, and they asked him politely if they could make the books into a TV show, and they gave him a lot of reasons why it should be a TV show. They said, hey George, we'll make crazy amount of money, we will be crazy famous, and on top of that, Mr. Martin, we will suck your dick if that needs be. And George said, wow, how can a human ever deny such a great deal? But here's the crazy part. George R.R. Martin told them, if they want to make a Game of Thrones TV show, they have to answer this question correctly. The question was a test for the writers, and the question was, who is Jon Snow's real mother? That was the question that these writers had to get right. And guess what? They got the question right.
And George, you guys obviously hit it off.
We took him out for lunch here in LA at the Palm, and we had a 4-hour lunch. And at the very end of lunch, he was sitting there kind of looking between the two of us, and he said, who is Jon Snow's mother?
Oh.
And it was a test question. And I'll always remember this. And George had a little bit of butter in his beard.
Who fielded that question?
We had weirdly, we had both talked about it because we'd read the book again by that point. And when you read it a second time, and if you're paying attention, it's you can kind of tell who Jon Snow's mother is.
I see.
Yeah. So we had an answer that we thought was right, and turned out not to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, but it turned out to be the right answer.
So the plot twist that literally gave them the show and gave them a career, they literally threw it in the dump. But yeah, they got Jon Snow's real mother correct. Jon Snow is the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. And this changed everything. Jon Snow his entire life is being told that he low-key ain't shit. He's not cool enough to sit at the big boy table in Winterfell. But once he realizes that he's a Targaryen, it turns out he's way more cooler than the Starks. It turns out not only does Jon Snow's identity matter, but in fact it matters more than anyone else's. His identity matters so much that his uncle Ned Stark took a massive hit to his honor and reduced so many of his honor points. And this was essentially setting up one of the greatest plot twists in fiction. And when the Game of Thrones TV show surpassed the books around season 4 to 5, depending on the character, the TV show writers had full creative control to this plot twist, and they could make it great in their own way. Because you gotta remember at this time, David, Dan, and George are the only people in the world who knew about this plot twist. And David and Dan now had control and 6 years of brainstorming on how they could make this plot twist make people like me who suffer from erectile dysfunction have a boner again. And in season 6 episode 10, we got our first real glimpse of this. And my god, the scene was perfect. This sent chills down my spine. When I watched this scene, I felt the exact same emotion when my insurance company told me they could cover my car accident. This scene was that great. I mean, it came in an already fantastic episode with Cersei blowing up the set and Daenerys finally getting her white ass to Westeros. But Jon Snow's birth reveal, this scene was so much better than those other two scenes and has so much better potential than those two scenes. Because this scene of Jon Snow's birth has George R.R. Martin writing all over it. And it did. Some of the dialogue is literally ripped straight from the books of Ned Stark having a dream about this moment. And come on, the music of the scene, oh my god. Did half of the budget of Game of Thrones just go to the beautiful Stark theme that they played during Jon Snow's reveal? Man, what a moment. But then season 7 starts. Season 7 was a weird season to say the least. All kinds of weird stuff was happening in season 7. I mean, we got like a Fortnite squad going to catch a white and bring it back to Cersei like it was like a GTA mission. Daenerys made a 200 IQ play by burning the Lannister supply she could have just used for her army. And Theon gets kicked in his man pussy and bro just feels no pain. But Jon Snow as a character, yeah, he fell victim to season 7 writing. His character basically became like a depressed teenager who listens to like sad Bart Simpson edits on TikTok. But to say that season 7 had no good moments is also like not fully true. Even though the Spoils of War episode didn't make any sense, I really enjoyed Jaime, Bronn, and Daenerys in this episode. I also enjoyed Olenna's last words, that was basically like a screw the haters moment. And the Hound has some great moments beyond the wall. But in my opinion, the best scene in season 7 was easily this.
From this day until the end of my days,
Robert's rebellion was built on a lie. Rhaegar didn't kidnap my aunt or rape her. He loved her. And she loved him. Jon's real name
His name is Aegon Targaryen. You have to protect him. Promise me, Ned.
He's never been a bastard. He's the heir to the Iron Throne.
Was Robert's rebellion built on a lie? Fuck no. But man, hearing those words for the first time sent chills down my spine. I also love the montage of the beer bowl on screen. Sure, during the scene we find out Jon Snow is plowing his aunt, but she don't need to know that. But it was at this time there was no mystery anymore. We knew that Jon Snow was a Targaryen. Ned Stark didn't forget his honor. Jon Snow wasn't a bastard. Rhaegar in the TV show didn't force himself on Lyanna. Lyanna didn't just mysteriously die. And most importantly, Jon Snow is a Targaryen, and Jon Snow's real name is Aegon Targaryen. On the show it's really cool, I like this name. In the books there's already a character called Aegon, who is also Rhaegar's child, or so he claims, but I doubt that's not going to be Jon's name in the books. But either way, this plot twist was still cooking, and it was cooking hard. Gordon Ramsay level. And the only thing we had left to do with this plot twist, we must see Jon Snow's reaction to him being a Targaryen and his family's. And after that, the plot twist can be closed. We can see him sit on the Iron Throne or end the Long Night or whatever. But the writers knew they couldn't screw up Jon Snow's reaction to the plot twist. It was by far one of the most important pieces of the puzzle that they needed to nail. And there was some foreshadowing on how Jon is gonna take the news of him being a Targaryen. In season 7, Jon is talking to Theon. When the first time you watch the scene, this conversation seems like it has to do more with Theon's arc. But if you really listen to it, this conversation has more to do with Jon Snow's arc, and how he's gonna take the news of him being a Targaryen.
it's always seemed like that. Like there was an impossible choice I had to make. Stark or Greyjoy.
Our father was more of a father to you than yours ever was.
He was.
And you betrayed him. Betrayed his memory.
I did.
But you never lost him. He's a part of you. Just like he's a part of me. You don't need to choose. You're a Greyjoy. And you're a Stark.
Then season 8 comes out of nowhere. This season was bad. This season was like watching your grandma have a heart attack. And there was no fun to be had. But this season is only really like terrible in the last 3.5 episodes. The first 2.5 episodes are pretty decent. And early on in the season, we finally get it. We get Jon Snow's reaction to him being a Targaryen. And I'm gonna be honest, this scene by itself was pretty well written. It may have not been perfect, Like, it's not a smart idea by like Sam and Bran to tell Jon life-changing news and a secret and risk Jon having a panic attack while the White Walkers are like a half a mile away. But overall, I still think the scene is good for what it is. Sam and Jon being in the crypts of Winterfell, Jon standing next to the statue of Lyanna Stark and Ned Stark, Kit Harington and John Bradley's acting, and even the dialogue was surprisingly great.
Your mother was Lyanna Stark. And your father, your real father, was Rhaegar Targaryen. You've never been a bastard. You are Aegon Targaryen, true heir to the Iron Throne.
My father was the most honorable man I ever met. You said he lied to me all my life.
Your father, Ned Stark, he promised your mother he'd always protect you. And he did. Robert would have murdered you if he knew. You're the true king. Aegon Targaryen, sixth of his name, protector of the realm, all of it.
But after that, the plot twist lost all of its momentum. I mean, it makes sense. The plot twist needs a few seasons worth of execution, and they only really gave us like 3 episodes. And one thing that they did that still pisses me off to this day is that David and Dan chickened out on the challenging writing that this plot twist needed. Like, Jon Snow being a Targaryen plot twist would also personally affect Arya and Sansa as well. And this scene is basically chickening out on their reactions. It's honestly laughable.
It's your choice.
I need to tell you something. But you have to swear you'll never tell another soul.
I swear it. Swear it.
Tell them.
So she's going to stay here with you?
And then Tyrion and Varys are like, yeah, Jon Snow is probably a better ruler than Daenerys, and Varys gets executed for this. And as a character as smart as Varys, he would never do this in the books. This bald man in the books would wipe out all of Westeros if he wanted to, if he wanted a different person to sit on the Iron Throne. And Daenerys and Jon have a hard time making out because they watched the History Channel and they found out incest is wrong, and now they're kind of weirded out. So Daenerys goes mad and Jon kills Daenerys, and then Bran the fucking broken becomes the king. And we get nothing out of Jon Snow being a Targaryen. He didn't even get to become like a full dragon rider. Sure, he flew a dragon for like 2 hours, but if I suck dick for 2 hours, that doesn't mean I'm gay. And everything just sucked the life out of the plot twist. That insane plot twist of Jon Snow being a Targaryen, possibly the most important person who has ever lived, assuming he is the prince that was promised, it all meant nothing. I mean, Jon Snow didn't even get to take out the Night King. Some of you don't know how insane that is. Like, really quickly, let me give you a thought exercise. Let's say you watch House of the Dragon first, and let's say you watch this scene.
From my blood come the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire.
You watch that scene and you're like, okay, the Targaryens are gonna help destroy the ice zombies in the other show. And then you get to season 5 of Game of Thrones and you watch Hardhome. And you're like, wow, that's so cool, but the prophecy said a Targaryen would wipe out the White Walkers. And Jon is not a Targaryen. It has to be Daenerys, and she isn't in Westeros yet. And then you find out, oh my god, Jon Snow is a Targaryen. He's gonna end the Long Night. It has to be either him or Daenerys. And then this happens. It just took so much away, and it sucks because David and Dan, even by season 7, were building up Jon Snow's identity. I mean, in season 7 we get a really great scene where Gendry, who is King Robert's child, he is talking to Jon Snow, who they think is Ned Stark's child, and they're like, yeah bro, our dads were so cool, they were like gods among men and they were like best friends. But in reality, Jon Snow's dad is Rhaegar, and Jon Snow's and Gendry's dad hated each other with a passion, or at least Gendry's dad did. and that made this scene so much more cooler.
This is Name's Gendry, Your Grace. I'm Robert Baratheon's son. Bastard son.
He was meant to keep that to himself.
Our fathers trusted each other. Why shouldn't we?
I saw your father once at Winterfell.
I met yours. In my shop.
You're a lot leaner. I grew up on stories about them.
And all I ever knew is that they fought together and won.
So it's weird that David and Dan in season 8 just threw out this plot twist, because it felt like they were still building it up in season 7 to a really good degree. But man, did they screw this plot twist all up. I do enjoy Jon Snow's final scene. I said before it made sense to me because in order for the story to come to a close, the Targaryen line has to be destroyed so history doesn't repeat itself. And Jon Snow giving up his Targaryen name and going back beyond the wall was alright to me. But imagine how cooler it would be if Jon Snow gave up his Targaryen name after years and years and seasons of him embracing his Targaryen side and embracing fire and blood, possibly even sitting on the Iron Throne. But instead, this beautifully written plot twist that Larry created the Game of Thrones TV show is now symbolic to the downfall of the Game of Thrones TV show. And yeah, that's it for this video. Like, subscribe, and peace.